TYFU.
Hey, Marilla.
Hello, Beth.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I want you to notice that you can kind of see through my shirt.
Oh, I've been seeing.
Because I know this is like the uniform for podcast recording. And today you're like in an oversized sweatshirt with a hood.
I am in modest apparel. Thank you very much. As I always am.
I'm just trying to meet you at your own game. And now
I am completely covered and in a demure headband.
Yes,
modest, demure, mindful.
Well, do you want to record an episode of our podcast? Thank you for understanding.
You know, I was just going to spend the whole time looking through your shirt, but I suppose since we're here, we might as well.
Yeah.
Let's see what trouble we can get into today.
Well, first, do you have any business that you want to attend to?
Let's see. I don't think it's too late to say that if you have any burning questions for us.
Oh, yes, for the Ask Us Anything episode.
Yes, if you have any burning questions for us, this is your last chance. You can email us questions at tyfupod.com. You can DM us on Instagram. You can comment on our posts. You can yell at us in the street.
Do we have a Facebook?
Yep. You can comment on Facebook. So yeah, let us know if you have any questions and we will answer most of them. And I don't want anyone to forget, you can interrogate Kelly Walker. Too bad for Kelly Walker. He will not be safe from these questions.
He signed up for this podcast.
That's exactly right.
So yes, send us your questions. That's my business. And now a word from our sponsor.
Some of the best feedback we receive at TYFU is from small business owners who say, I'm glad to hear that I'm not alone.
In Geneva, small business owners are never alone.
The Geneva Business Improvement District is your partner.
BID works to increase foot traffic for downtown businesses with marketing and promotion.
BID also hosts events to draw customers and keeps downtown beautiful so they'll stay.
Want to learn more? Visit BID today at genevadowntown.com. So let's dig in. You got an envelope to rip?
Somewhat, yes. I have an envelope to rip this evening, and it's one of those envelopes that we can see through. So we kind of know what's going on. But let's rip it anyway. Just like your shirt. Let's rip it anyway.
All right, I'm not sure. I mean,
is it a topic?
It's a topic.
It's a topic, right?
And the topic is recap, which doesn't sound like super exciting, but
it's a recap episode because, maybe it's not that sexy. Maybe it doesn't sound
That's why I wore this shirt to try to balance the snooze fest of doing a recap episode.
But the truth is, every time we do an episode, we've wrapped the recording, Kelly edits it like a magician, and then we remember all the stories that we forgot to talk about.
Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot to tell them about the time that and then we start texting, or I start texting and tell you all the stories that I forgot.
Right. And there's so much that we miss. There's so much, literally, we could do another season of the same episodes and probably have plenty to talk about. So here we are.
Yes, but we don't really want to do another season
put you through
of the same topic.
God, no.
A deja vu kind of thing.
Oh my God.
But we thought we could share like a couple of the highlights.
Yeah, like a rapid fire.
Yeah.
A rapid fire recap of what's standing out in our minds that we missed.
Or share some stories from people who have written in, because we have a couple of those too. Like the episode drops and then somebody writes to us and they're like, oh my God, you'll never believe what happened to me.
Right.
So we can share some of those.
Right. Or sometimes we'll record an episode and then something will happen like 2 weeks
afterwards.
Later.
Yes. I can't believe that happened. Oh, I can't believe that happened 5 days too late.
Right. Mm-hmm. So here we are. Okay. Do we need to justify any further why we're doing a recap episode?
And also, we're sorry.
And also deal with it. All right. Well, I know you have a list that's much more organized than mine. So I cede the floor to you, Beth.
Well, when you say my list is organized, I have to admit that it's not, because it's sort of like just things I scribbled down over time as like different things occurred to me. Like, oh, shoot, I can't believe we didn't mention that.
Right.
I will say, I'll kick us off, though, with the last episode we did was weddings.
Yes.
And we had Chelsea,
right,
my employee, who is both worked as a wedding photographer and a wedding floral designer.
Incredible.
And she told us some stories. And I can't believe that she and I both forgot one of her stories, which was, and I hope I do it justice without Chelsea being here, but she was telling me about this time that she was working on a wedding for a certain venue at a certain time. And then she was also working on a wedding for the same venue at the same time. What? And realized that they were at a local venue that has multiple, like, ballrooms.
Oh, multiple ballrooms. Right? Okay. Yeah,
so
I'm with you.
First, it didn't occur to them that these two weddings were actually scheduled in literally the same ballroom at literally the same time. On the same day. And it's 2 weeks before the event is supposed to take place.
No.
And the florist, in this case, had to contact the venue,
ring the bell,
and be hey,
something's not,
this doesn't look quite right.
Yes,
up. Right. Did you intentionally book two brides?
Yeah, like, is this a rivalry
on the same day? Like, is this like a wedding duel?
Is this a war? Because I'm interested if it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have to admit that this is a secondhand story, so I don't know exactly how it played out.
Oh, what
but
a
somebody's
story.
Wedding got canceled 2 weeks before the wedding by the venue.
Can you imagine?
No, absolutely no.
Can you imagine from a thank you for understanding standpoint, having to be the person from the venue to make that call, to be like, by the way, we made a mistake. Thank you it gets busy here sometimes. Thank you so much for understanding. We'll talk soon, right? Bye. Oh my God.
So even if the venue was able to offer a full refund or something like that, how is the bride,
how do you organize all the family?
Yes.
Oh my God.
There had to be, like, I would say, hotels that were booked, rehearsal dinners that were booked, not just, photographers, videographers, a band, maybe.
And
all of
if
that.
you're having a wedding at a ballroom situation, it's not a small wedding.
No,
it's not
all the invitations.
Not a 50-person
I'm just
wedding.
Thinking about what a major problem that is.
I actually had to now I'm thinking, why didn't I talk about this on the wedding episode?
This is what happens.
I actually had to reschedule my wedding like 2 months before.
Why?
My wedding. Because the venue that we got for my wedding originally was not finished.
Was not finished?
Yeah, they decided they were going to do renovations.
Oh, okay, cool.
Leading up to it. They were like, it's fine, it'll be done. We're putting in a fountain, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. Wasn't done. Basically, we got nervous and we pulled out 2 months before because we had already sent the invitations. We literally had to send another mailing that was like, guess what? It's going to be someplace else. And then come to find out, the man in charge of our original venue was being investigated by the FBI. And he got locked up for fraud. Yeah,
Holy
no
cow.
joke. The FBI hunted this man down, and we had to answer questions and stuff about it. Yeah. Yes, my poor mother, who is as sweet as pie, was a part of that investigation because, he was just booking all these weddings and he was never actually done with his venue. And I think there was 3 or 4 that had to switch.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you were able to recover.
Yeah. Like,
and that you were smart enough to bail.
Yeah, we bailed.
You saw the writing on the wall.
Right. We bailed in time-ish. It's still pretty uncommon, even 2 months before a wedding, let alone 2 weeks, like these poor people that you're talking about. But I think what really riled this whole thing up and got the FBI involved was the fact that some people didn't get out quick enough, and they showed up, and it was like an active construction.
Oh my gosh.
Site. Yeah. So I completely forgot about that. So how's that for a recap? So there's what we missed at a wedding.
Right. No, I didn't have anything else for the weddings episode.
No, let's move
I thought
along.
we'd kick off with that because it was a recent drop of ours.
Yes.
And so it was fresh in my mind.
Phenomenal idea. I love that. Let's keep it snappy.
Okay. What do you got?
Let's see. I had a couple gifts that I did not mention.
Ooh, wonderful.
Gifts was a long time ago.
Oh, I loved the gifts episode. I loved it so much that I know it was episode 6.
Ooh, look at you.
Or maybe it was episode 7.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure it was episode 6.
All right.
I love that one.
I had a couple wholesome gifts to mention. So one of the gifts that I thought was worth mentioning was when I was like 18, I was going on this school trip to Italy with my friend. It was first time I'd ever traveled, and we had this customer at the health food store that I worked at who was as sweet as pie. She was a little stern. You never knew if she really liked you or not. Mm-hmm. This one had a little twinkle in her eye. She was a little mischievous, and I would say like a week or so before I was leaving. Of course, when you work in a small shop, everyone is invested in your travels and your plans. So everyone knew I was going. And she came in with her husband, and they gave me $300.
What?
And they gave me $300, and they were like, going on a trip is a really special thing, and we want you to be able to enjoy it, have something to eat that you like, get something to remember the trip by, tip your tour guides, and they gave me $300 to make sure that I had a great trip. And they didn't know me.
That's really sweet.
It was very sweet, and I can't believe I did not mention that. It was not very sweet of me, but I thought of it. It's just one of those things, like that customer is not a family member, not really a friend.
Yes.
Beyond the store. But I remember that 10 years later.
Of course, yeah.
It seemed like, $300 is nothing to sneeze at.
No, but especially for basically a stranger.
Yeah.
Like somebody else's teenager.
It was very sweet. And they weren't like the most wealthy people in the world. They just...
Sure.
It was just such a kind gift.
Well, I'm glad you remembered it and could share it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because I think on that episode, which was a while ago, we mostly focused on the weird things, right?
Like the cursed tokens and the ostrich feathers.
The gifts that didn't really feel very gifty.
Yes.
But that's a nice story.
That's a real nice one that didn't make it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to jump over to the boundaries episode because I have another secondhand story to tell, and I'm not sure I'm going to tell it exactly right because gifts was a million years ago, and then boundaries was a million years ago. Right? But after we dropped the boundaries episode, someone wrote into me to tell me about an experience waitressing.
Ooh, yes.
Where the waitress that was bringing food to the table, and kind of in the course of the meal, like not necessarily at the end with the tip, the gentleman slid $100 bill across the table.
Ooh.
And said, if you want to come back to our hotel room later, my wife and I are just passing through. And
oh my God.
We'd love to spend a little time with you.
Oh no.
I don't think that's appropriate, Marilla.
Honestly, my dumbass would have been like, is it a nice hotel? I'd love to chit chat.
I'd love to chit chat. I just feel like it must be so weird in the middle of the meal, even. Like leave a note on a napkin or something. I don't know.
You're
like
gone.
yes.
Not
I
that,
don't know.
Not that Not that that's our plan, Beth. Next time we're dining
I thought
out.
a lot about this, how I would handle it for the next time I get a cute person serving me my hamburger.
For the next time I want to cross a boundary at dinner
and totally violate someone.
Yeah. Wow. That's a bold move. Yeah, because then you have to slip that note in there, and then you have to continue the interaction and look them in the eyes.
For that. I mean, there was a note in terms of it was $1 or it was $100 bill.
Oh, it was a bank note.
There was a bank note.
Yes.
They actually spoke to her.
Spoke to her. Oh, even weirder. Because that's when you get your little customer service voice on. I imagine for me, I'd be like, oh my God, so nice, but I have to go to bed. Gosh, I would, but gosh, but
you're staying at the Hampton Inn
late,
and that's just not. I'm really a Ramada type gal.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. So never hesitate to send us your stories, because you never know when it could come up on a recap. And quite often people's memories are jogged by these episodes.
Mm-hmm. That one probably could have also gone on Crushes, the Crushes episode. Oh no.
Speaking of Crushes.
I know what this is. I've heard about it.
I brought an envelope.
For the Crushes episode that was left.
Since you segued so nicely into Crushes.
Marilla has just pulled an envelope, a business envelope, out of her pocket.
I have in my hand a poem written for one of my employees. Speaking of crushes, quite often the girls at Marilla's will, what's the word? Enchant the locals and the passersby. And I cannot believe that I forgot to share this on the episode when Haley was here, because this poem was written for my employee, Haley. And long ago, she said, you can absolutely share that on the podcast. And I never did.
Well, maybe it's because I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable even looking at it.
Well, we're going to edit the whole thing out. It's going to be fine.
I'm uncomfortable that someone has written a poem.
Ooh, yeah.
And it's probably full of emotion.
Tell me that no one has written you a poem, Beth.
No, I can't.
That's great.
But I'm not reading it on the podcast.
Can't tell you that no one has written me a poem either. I guess we're all in
it's
good
Kelly's
company.
business to share it if she chooses. So here we go.
And we know that people have written poems about Kelly. So we are all in good company. This poem is titled Flirting.
No.
We're starting out really strong. Yeah. Yep. It's titled Flirting. I'm sorry, I'm a fool.
Oh, God. My heart is already broken.
I know.
Oh, Lord.
I'm sorry, I'm a fool. And understand, you may be embarrassed by talking to me. Yoinks.
Is it free verse?
But we're going to have to evaluate it after the fact. But I can't not flirt with you. Something in the air is released when I see your smile sail the blue seas that sway in steady gaze from your eyes.
Oh, Lord.
Then, when all this gets set up, two dimples move in. Like, poor dimples. Two dimples move in like welcoming arms, embracing... Embracing my tired soul. I can't help but flirt with you. And then there's a nice note down below that says...
That's the whole poem right there?
That's the whole poem, the end.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's a nice note at the bottom that says, I wrote this poem yesterday. Don't take me wrong. I write all kinds of uplifting, quote unquote, poems. I actually want to reiterate that I'm sorry, and yet I'm not sorry. Now, you, I don't know your name, have inspired a poem of immortal beauty. I hope.
Whoa.
Smiley face. Yeah. So, I mean, I have mixed feelings about it, because on one hand, it makes me sweaty in a bad way, not a good way. But on the other hand, I kind of appreciate the note at the bottom that's like, you know, I wrote this yesterday. Don't worry. I write all kinds of uplifting poems. Like, you're special.
But not that special.
But it's not weird.
Yeah. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. So
Immortal beauty.
Immortal beauty.
So not a big deal, Immortal Beauty.
Yeah,
like I'm having trouble balancing those
no
things.
biggie, but your beauty is immortal.
Lies by my poem.
Yes. So that's just the kind of stuff that happens on a daily basis for us. Yeah. So not sure how this got away from the crushes episode. And to this man's credit, he doesn't come back very often. I'd say he comes in the shop maybe once a year. He's not a lurker.
He's not a lurker.
He's not a lurker.
I'd rather have
He's
a poet than a lurker any day of the week. Yeah.
Me too. So take that for what you will, but
I'm breaking this down too literally when we say two dimples move in like welcoming arms. That sounds scary.
Yeah, it's not my
Sorry,
favorite.
dimples, but that sounds frightening to me.
It's not my favorite verse in the world.
Okay.
So yeah, that's one for the crushes. That's one for the crushes.
I mean, it reminds me of something that we left out of crushes. And I'm not saying that the poet is a stalker, because apparently he doesn't show up that often.
He actually doesn't show up that often, hardly at all. Hardly at all.
But we didn't bring up the thing that can sometimes happen where a customer just won't leave you alone.
Yeah.
And I have had a customer I'm thinking of in particular that just can't take a hint and won't stop coming by. And in fact, I have seen outside my house, just like standing on the sidewalk, gazing at the house. And that makes me feel uncomfortable. And I don't think that I'm like in physical danger.
Right.
But I feel like it's gotten to like a creepy level.
Yeah, and you feel like maybe?
I feel like it's a creepy level. Yeah.
Too.
So
as your friend, I'm gonna say maybe, yeah.
The thing that Haley mentioned when on the Crushes episode was that the thing about working behind a counter is, unless you want to like get the police involved, you're kind of trapped there, and anybody can walk in the door anytime.
Right. And
it's kind of hard to navigate when it goes creepy.
Yeah.
And then once it does, how you want to handle it.
Exactly. Because it's all hunky dory if you're feeling plucky and you're ready to kick somebody out. But like, they don't always come in on days that you're feeling plucky and you're ready to kick somebody out. But yet you still have to deal with the situation. You still have to navigate that discomfort. And it's not always fun and flirty.
No.
Like a poem. And so, yeah, I guess shout out to all the real ones out there who are fending off borderline stalkers.
Or actual stalkers. Because that's a thing.
Right. Mm-hmm. Not to get too dark, but it's real. Mm-hmm. It's real.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to, since it's going a little dark, do you want to tell a happy crushes story that came into us?
Oh, yes.
From, I think, a friend of yours.
Of course. Yes. My best friend in the whole wide world had words with me after our crushes episode. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. I almost lost her after all these years because of a story that I know full well happened to her at work, and I did not invite her on the podcast to tell it. So thankfully, we're still friends, and she sent me the story. And so we shall read it for all of you because it's quite charming.
Okay, I'm ready. I'd like an uplifting story.
All right. Well, we're going to let it rip. Having known and grown up, maybe this one could have a little music, something folksy. From the Shire, perhaps. I don't know. Having known and grown up with Marilla for 20 years. Oh, that's personal. Sorry, guys. Skip. 10 years ago, at the age of 19, I was working at a winery here in the Finger Lakes as a server doing wine tastings. Now, not to toot my own horn, but I have to admit I had a few gentlemen callers, if you will.
I'm very good looking.
That's right. She is.
Actually...
Pause.
I know this woman.
You know this woman.
And she was hit on in my store by a customer.
Because she's so beautiful.
Yes, I just put it all together.
Oh my God.
But go ahead. She has had some gentleman callers. I've seen it at
Have
stopping
you told
grounds.
that story?
No, but
oh
we
my
can
God.
right now.
Okay. Oh my God.
After this.
Okay. So she has had a few gentleman callers in her time over the years. Especially in the wine industry, it was not uncommon for liquored up bachelor party attendees to slip their phone number across the counter or even ask her when her shift was over. She truly never took anybody up on these offers, as she was usually uninterested, and she would give them a smile and a wave and promptly throw away the phone number as soon as they left. Cold. She is... Watch out, boys. All right. However, one evening in November, a young guy and his friend came waltzing into the tasting room. They were stopping in on a whim. They were the only customers, and it was shortly before closing time. They asked for a tasting, and she set them up and began her usual small talk. Throughout the tasting, one of the gentlemen seemed very interested in our friend Suzanne, and quite frankly, the feeling was mutual. They quickly got off the topic of wine. They started chatting. It felt like two friends. It was very magical. The chemistry was cooking. And then she says some romantic things that we're going to skip. Blah, blah, blah. I love you, Suzanne. And their visit came to a close. They walked out, and she thought, boy, that guy seemed really into me, and he didn't give me a number or anything. Nothing.
Shame.
Nothing. He left.
What a shame.
I know. So as they were locking up the doors, lo and behold, that young man had walked out to the car with his friend, and as they were about to leave, he turned to his friend and said, if I don't go back inside and give that girl my phone number, I'm going to regret it forever.
For the rest of my life.
The rest of my life. Oh. So he scribbled his number on the back of a receipt. He raced back to the doors. The doors were locked.
Oh, God.
Brutal.
Thwarted
in love. So the manager answered the door, asked if he had forgotten something. He blew past without an excuse,
Whoosh.
And much to her surprise, came up to Suzanne at the bar and said, I'm sure you have a boyfriend, and this is completely inappropriate.
Hell yeah.
He had listened to the episode probably. No, this is a long time ago. This is completely inappropriate, but I had to give you this. And he slid his number across the bar. For the first time, this is from Suzanne's perspective. For the first time in my life, I kept that phone number, and long story short, the rest is history. This year, that young man and I will celebrate 10 years together and 8 years happily married.
Okay, so just like we mentioned on the Crushes episode, every once in a while, it is an episode of Friends.
Every once in a while,
out, right?
It's pretty
it
romantic.
Is Gilmore Girls.
It is.
But most of the time, no.
Yeah, most of the time, don't come in if the doors are locked, Jesse.
But everybody thinks like this is it. This is like I'm the exception to the rule.
Well, and sometimes they are. And so I guess, I don't know what the moral is. Don't lose hope, but also don't be weird. Don't make it weird.
Well, I'm glad it worked out for one person. Well, two people, Suzanne and Jesse. Yeah. It worked out for.
Yeah.
God bless them, those kids.
You know what I say? Good for them.
I don't have much of a story after that, but I just put it all together that your friend Suzanne was a young woman in my store one time.
Yes.
Okay, so to backtrack a little bit, I was telling you about this cringe thing that happened in my store.
Cross.
And you're like, oh my God, that was my friend Suzanne.
Yeah.
Right?
Because she told me about this cringe thing that happened in your store.
And it was a while ago. I don't remember all the details, but she was there shopping like a normal person, just like looking around and shopping and minding her own GD business.
As much as a beautiful land mermaid can.
When this creep fest started like talking to her, and I wasn't paying like a ton of attention right away.
Yeah.
Just like, I just felt like they did not know each other. He's invading her space a little bit.
They were not vibing.
He's too chatty. They were not vibing. He was giving her the ick. You taught me that phrase.
The ick. Yes.
Yes.
That was a good use of it. Yes.
And I started to kind of like raise my awareness a little bit.
Yes.
Like, am I going to have to do something here? Am I going to have to intervene?
Right.
And what's going to have to happen? And as I'm kind of processing and thinking about this, your friend took off.
Yeah, she was like, I'm out of this creepy bookstore.
I know.
No, she has since been back, and
Oh, okay.
no men have accosted her in
Yeah.
that way. So
Yeah.
I think it's all forgiven. Right, Suzanne?
The ick factor, we did talk about. I can bring in another example from that
Look
episode.
at us segueing
I know.
from one thing
Boom,
to
boom,
another.
boom, boom.
Ping pong.
Oh, yeah. So I made a note here because this connects to 2 episodes. The Crushes episode, we discussed a gentleman named Randy.
Ooh,
Right?
good old Randy.
And then I remembered on the ick factor episode, you were telling me about gauche things that people say.
Yes.
And one of those gauche things that people say is like, I'm just killing time.
Ugh.
And I remembered that the last time Randy was in my store, he's like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, great. How's it going with you? I didn't know he was a creeper at that time.
You didn't know about his flaccid situation.
No. And he was telling me how he hasn't been in my store for years. And I was like, oh, well, welcome back. I'm glad. What brings you in today? And he's like, well, I'm actually just killing time.
Oh, God. Honestly, where's the eject button? We need an eject button for those customers. You lure them over the platform, you press the button, and they get catapulted out of the store.
What I realized, though, is that we have like customers who are repeat offenders in various different situations. They're just inappropriate on many different levels, in many different ways, in many different stores. At this point, we may have told 200 stories on this podcast, but they're actually only 5 customers.
Yeah, right. So again, if you're wondering if it's you, it's not. It's just these 5 unfortunate souls.
Yeah. What else you got? Anything else you got to talk about today?
I have on my very organized list. Let's see. We did the poem. I was reviewing our episodes and I came across the fact that we did one about how nice it is to be the boss.
Oh, yes.
And I'm realizing that I'm in a moment right now where that is quite applicable because it is nice. I'm getting ready to take a trip.
Okay. Where are you going?
I am going to a tropical place, to a beach, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
Yeah. Somehow
this is work related?
This is work related. And it's because I'm the boss and I'm very thankful. But at the same time, I'm somehow writhing in guilt that I'm about to do this very nice thing.
Not enough to not do it.
Not enough to not do it. My God. So I'm like just having such a moment. And how am I going to pack my bonbons? And it's just this moment that made me think of that episode because I have this wonderful opportunity to go and do this wonderful thing. And I'm somehow like stressing myself out a little bit because I'm like, well, what? Like people are already, if I mention that I'm going to be out of town, people are already being like, oh, well, must be nice that you can, take 2 days for yourself. So that is why it's nice to be the boss, I guess. And I'm going to writhe in my guilt on the beach.
Yeah.
If that makes you feel better.
Maybe you could do some yoga and try to work through it.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe a massage.
Just let it go, Marilla.
Yeah, let the tension release. Mm-hmm. Let it melt away with the waves on the shore.
Okay, so, I hope you have a great time. No one has ever invited me anywhere except for, you can be on Pawn Stars if you pay for everything yourself.
Yeah.
And can be here in 3 days.
Yeah, that's garbage. Yeah, and so it's just, I'm very grateful for it, but it immediately yanked me back to our conversation about being nice to be the boss because you're excited about these things that come up, but also
yeah.
It's complicated.
But I do think there's lots of opportunities when you own a business to travel for your work.
Yes,
either it's
absolutely.
because you got to go, to a trade show, or you are going to go to a conference and advance, your knowledge of your
Right.
of your specialty one way or the other, or you're going to go, I don't know, on a shopping trip. If you're an antiques dealer,
Right,
you got to go to
sourcing.
Paris and find the shit. That's you just got to.
Yeah, I'm there, Beth. Let's go.
So, I think there are opportunities where it really is nice to be the boss. It still costs you money, and it's still,
Yes.
you still have to, make sure your shop is covered while you're
Yeah.
off, on the beach.
Oh yeah, I
But-
guess that's the balance of it. I'm
Yeah.
going to head out for 3 days, but somehow both of my managers are also heading out that week.
So you're just going to close? What are you going to do? Yeah.
Lizzie's in charge of it all. Lizzie is in charge of it all. So yeah, if there's anything that goes wrong, it's all on Lizzie, and it'll be fine. You guys know how she is.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Well, that's a nice story. I'm glad that's going to happen for you.
No, thanks. That sounds so sincere.
I'm
Beth.
kind of scrolling down my list to see is there anything nice I can say?
Yeah, did you bring anything, or are you just the naughty side of this nice? Let's see.
I did have a couple of things that are kind of big bummers after your exotic beach
Lay it
trip.
on me.
All right.
Lay it on me.
Well, how about this one? Speaking of travel, because I'm looking for a segue desperately.
You're on it.
I sell antique maps in my store.
Okay.
And
Oh my
I was
God.
thinking about the unrealistic expectations episode. So the segue is travel, because maps.
Yes.
Right.
Travel, maps.
Maps. Okay.
Bingo.
I currently am framing a map of Europe for someone. It is an antique map. And the customer came in and made all the framing decisions.
Okay.
And then it turned out that there were recently some elections in one of the countries shown on the map
Okay.
that
Didn't resonate?
didn't the customer was unhappy with the results of the elections
politics are
in
tricky.
this European country.
Yes.
So they stopped into the store to see if I could just take that country out of the map altogether.
Just erase
I have
it.
no idea how they
What?
pictured that happening. But
They just replace it with more of
I
another
don't
country,
maybe
perhaps?
cross out the name of the country. I don't know. I don't
it
know.
Seems easy enough. Just grab a pen and just zigzag it.
The answer that we gave this customer was no.
Breaking
So we didn't even
hearts.
look deep into the many options that
Breaking
maybe they were.
hearts. It sounds like Stomping Grounds is. I feel like their customer service is
It's sucky.
really
Sucky, for lack of a better
bit
word.
harsh. Oh gosh. I had another kind of etiquette story that I missed out on. I used to have a customer who would come in when we sold more supplements, and they would just sit down on the floor and read the labels.
Oh my gosh.
This woman would come in, and she had a list of supplements that she wanted to investigate, and you would bring her to the supplements and you would give them to her, and then she would just sit down on the floor.
It's awkward for other customers to have to
she
walk
would
around that, right?
Pull out her phone, or sometimes she would have a book and she would just start reading and researching the supplement in the middle of the floor. A grown woman. She was probably in her 60s. And it's jolting when you come around the corner and there's just a grown woman just sitting on the floor in a store. It doesn't happen very often.
What it made me think of is a customer I used to have who would just fall asleep in my store frequently. I think he
What?
was a lonely person, and this is why you can't really have chairs in a
I was thinking about
No.
adding some chairs.
Don't add any chairs, even to prevent this person sitting down on the floor. Don't have chairs
Right.
if you can help it.
Maybe some sitting cushions in my case.
No, because next thing you know, she's laying on the floor and she's taking a nap.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But this guy used to come in, I don't know, once a week at the very least, probably more than that. And I think he was just lonely. He'd come in the store, he'd sit down in the chair, he'd pretend that he was going to buy a book. He was never going to buy a book, but he'd grab a book and sit in the chair and promptly fall asleep. And he was a real snorer. And so,
a snorer,
yes,
no
yes,
less.
Yes. And a deep sleeper. So I couldn't just like stomp around and stuff or have very loud conversations close to him.
Did you
He
ever
was
have to like poke
him?
like shake him awake, or did you just let it be?
I think for the most part, I just let him do his thing. But I don't think that I would handle that this way now. I'd be like, okay, I can see you're tired. You got to go. Why don't you go home?
Let's move it along.
Yeah. But whenever he would wake up, without fail, he would be like, oh, must have fallen asleep there. I guess I better get going. And take him 10 minutes to stand up. And then he'd be like, you mind if I use your little boy's room?
Oh,
constantly using the bathroom.
No.
And I think what bothered me most about it is like at that time, there were no actual boys working at Stomping Grounds.
Oh.
It was like everyone identified as female.
Yes.
So if anything, it was the little girl's room. And so it got under my skin so much. All right. Well, that wasn't even on my list. The sleeper in the little boy's room user.
And the little boy's room, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Mm-hmm. Getting to the end of mine, I recently had a bit of a gossip moment.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was
the gossip I told you?
No. No, that's private. Recently, I play in a band, and we have multiple musicians in our band, and some of those musicians will sub in for other bands. Some of them are in other bands. And so maybe a couple months ago, over the summer, I knew that our horn player was playing at a new venue, and it was very close by to work. And so I stopped in after work to have a glass of wine and finish some orders. I felt very official and business ladylike because I'm sitting by myself at this table listening to beautiful music at this cool new venue. Picture it. It's a dream. So then when the musicians took a break, the horn player came over and sat with me because we are in a band together. Like, he comes over, we're chit-chatting, and then they go back and start their set. 2 days later, somebody is telling our horn player's wife that he was talking to some woman and on a date with a woman at this new place, this dark-haired woman that is much younger, and da-da-da-da-da. And definitely, it was all about me. And thankfully, we all have a great relationship. Not that great, but but like it never became anything. But talk about gossip. Like we're seen together all the time in the band. I go out once and have my mysterious woman evening by myself with a glass of wine, and our horn player sits down for 10 minutes, and I'm immediately having an affair with the man.
Is it that easy?
Yeah, apparently. And yes, his wife is a great sport. She said it's about time they had somebody to help around the house in addition to them. So, we're working it out. But like, talk about like lightning gossip I work professionally with the man.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, you could say that the tattletale is just looking out for her, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's really...
Oh, it's so gross. It's so gross.
It's gross in a lot of ways.
Oh, it's so many levels. Don't do that.
Yeah. You don't want to analyze it? You don't want to go down that road of the grossness?
I would love to go down that.
Yeah.
I would love to go down that road because I think what happened was his wife said to their friend, oh, that's Marilla, and they're in a band together. Like, it's totally a misunderstanding. And then the person was like, oh, no, I meant some other person. And like, it's still
So it's
happening.
Like she's trying to
she's
stir shit up for what
to
reason?
stir it up. I do not know. But they were hell bent on
Making sure
that gossip.
the horn guy was having an affair with somebody.
God. Yeah.
Huh.
And let the record show that our horn player is one of the most wholesome, wonderful people I've ever met and has a long and tried and true
So
marriage.
the math doesn't math.
The math just doesn't math. And sometimes, even in your professional settings, the gossip will just pop up and people just cannot wait.
To be the bearer of bad news.
To be the bearer of bad news.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my God. What if, gosh, there's so many what ifs there.
Yeah. Like,
Right?
it really could have done some major damage.
Could have done some major damage. But people don't think. And we are privy to that all the time. All the time.
Well, speaking of hurtful things, I can segue here to bounce back to the boundaries episode. Because you remember we were talking about body commentary. And I remembered a story that really troubled me. I had a customer come into my store and she was on a weight loss kick.
Okay.
And she was talking about all the exercise she's doing and all the healthy eating she's doing.
Okay.
And then she begins to say to one of my employees, yeah, I used to be as skinny as you. Ugh. And then she left that employee alone and she started talking to one of my customers and being like, yeah, and I used to be as skinny as you. And it got really uncomfortable as one customer was talking to the other customer about the size and shape of her body.
Right.
And asking her really personal questions about the size and shape of her body.
Ugh.
And it was so uncomfortable that I actually apologized to
the
my customer.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so sorry that this other customer was clearly making you uncomfortable.
Right.
I guess as she's trying to compliment you.
Right.
Or I don't know what this is. But I've been thinking about it afterwards. It's like, well, what if that customer had or employee had chronic health issues?
Right.
Like, what if they were suffering from some kind of eating disorder or
right.
any number of diseases,
something.
or even just like a mental illness, or even just they're going through a period of depression or grief
stress,
or any number of reasons.
Right.
That a person might be presenting a certain way physically.
Yep.
And I was just so mad
To be put in the spotlight.
One customer talking to this other customer in a really ick way. This is the second time this has come up today.
Yeah.
Where you got one customer kind of harassing another customer. And what is the line there? What's your responsibility?
Yeah, you're kind of then the referee.
Yeah. I think that the customer that I apologized to was grateful for it. Just the fact that somebody else saw it, how gross it was. But it was not okay.
But at the same time, that's uncomfortable too, because it's like,
Oh, yeah.
you have to
Acknowledge.
elongate the interaction and draw it out a little bit just to kind of clear that up, so it's not hanging in the air.
That is a boundary that is not okay to cross.
Yeah.
Don't talk about bodies.
Yeah. At some point, we have to make the 10 commandments of TYFU, and that's on there somewhere, right, Kelly?
Body commentary is not okay.
Is off limits. Big ick. The 10 commandments. That's one of them.
You know what else should go on the 10 commandments list?
Let me have it.
If you are a multi-billion-dollar company who is trying to host an event for your employees,
Donations.
you should not contact your local small businesses, family-owned tiny businesses, and ask for donations.
Yes.
For this employee celebration day.
Right.
Because that's happened since we did the donations episode.
Yes. Yeah. Recently, a local shop reached out to us and shared that this business asked for a donation. And then this local shop went and looked up their numbers.
numbers.
The public numbers, because this company is public.
Publicly owned. Yep.
Yeah. Which, by the way, if you're public, that's a huge, like, just that alone
Suggests that maybe you have some resources.
that you might have some outside funding and like access to capital that we don't. Oh my God. Yeah, that is gauche.
Oh, it was so upsetting to me when I saw that happen. It's like, how out of touch are you with what it means to be a small business owner? I was just so upset by that one.
Yeah.
Sent me right over the edge.
They're outside of the orbit of reality.
Yeah.
Completely outside of the orbit of reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've touched on so many episodes, donations, boundaries.
Mm-hmm. How about soliciting, though?
Soliciting.
Because after we dropped that episode, a vet from Earthly Possessions across the street from me was posting about these two solicitors who came into their shop, and they had also come into my shop.
They did.
Yes. So they went all over town.
They did not come into my shop.
It must be because they were able to identify that you weren't the type of shop that would be interested in selling the most wasteful thing ever produced on the planet, which is this tiny little plastic light up strobe ring. You put it on your hand. It's plastic and stretchy, rubbery.
Okay.
It's operated on 3 watch batteries.
3 watch batteries. That's heavy. That's a lot of watch batteries.
And when you squeeze it, it starts strobing.
Wow.
And we could buy we had the opportunity to buy 100 of these.
The opportunity.
For $2.50 each.
Oh my
God. And they were going to give us the opportunity to retail them at $5. So at least they understood a wholesale price.
Wholesale pricing, the basics.
Right. But no one on the planet is going to, I think, pay $5 for this thing that I Googled and you can actually buy for 59 cents.
Ooh.
So they're just buying them in bulk.
Yeah.
But they had a hell of a sales pitch, Marilla. Like, for instance, this man, the lady part was pitching. And this man,
you mean the pooper?
he lifted a cape over his head and then turned the ring on so that you could see how bright and crazy it was.
Stop it.
And they assured me that they had tested it on the water, and you could have this ring on the beach and you could drive a mile offshore and still see the ring.
I feel like this could be like a health risk. I mean, don't you have to
dangerous.
Put a disclaimer if you have strobe lights
if you're jogging, it's just the thing you want to have on your hand so that you don't get hit by a car. So it's actually good for your health. Oh, but anyway, because of the manufacturing process on this guy, I think it maybe wouldn't fit your store as well as it would have fit in my antique bookstore. For instance.
Yes. I could see how that might stick out.
Yeah.
Perhaps blink.
Yes. So these folks came in with a very intense, high energy sales pitch.
Theatrical.
And they were there for approximately 5 minutes, giving it everything they got. They were like, it was on Shark Tank or something like this. He pulled the cape over and so you could see how bright the ring was. And she's talking.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really don't think this is a good fit for my store.
Right.
And they're like, okay, bye. No time. No time. They're just off to the next.
Honestly, you know what? I like them. Entrepreneurs. They're efficient. They have a little razzle dazzle.
There was some razzle and some dazzle. Both.
Yeah, I mean,
and they understood wholesale pricing,
and they had a realistic wholesale pricing situation. I'm just saying.
Well, that's all I got for our recap episodes. Things that have been occurring to me since these different episodes dropped. Do you have any more?
I think
as soon as we stop recording, we'll think of another.
Yeah. As soon 15. As Callie packs away the mics lovingly, we will have an epiphany of genius, and that'll just have to wait until next season's recap. If this, makes it into this season's recap, we'll see how it goes. But yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of next season, I mean, we have just a few more episodes in this season. We are still, I think, looking for sponsorship, but we are moving
into season
3.
So are we going to do a season 3?
I mean, I guess so. We haven't signed any contracts yet, but
We'll think about it.
yeah.
So if you're thinking about it too, and you would
you
like
guys want to see a season
Yeah.
3? Like, I mean, are we?
do you want a season 3? If you would like to sponsor season 3, then reach out to us and we'll maybe consider it,
Yeah. Well, I hope we do a season 3 because I already got it, and we have already established a long line
of episodes.
of episode topics.
So if you guys don't want it, then you'll be missing out.
I hope we get to it because some of them are doozies.
They really are. They really are. So yeah, reach out. Let's talk about sponsorship because that would really encourage us to do season 3, right? And I think that's all that's all, folks, right?
And now a word from our sponsor.
So Beth,
Yes, Marilla.
I was posting on Instagram and I have to say our recording space is just beautiful.
The Red Room Studio.
Yes, you have a way with decorating.
Well, thanks.
Not everybody can do that, but if you're looking for a great location to decorate your space, you should check out Axom Home in Rochester.
Axom.
Axom. It's a destination for modern furniture and accessories to make your home reflect your own unique style.
Furniture.
Axom's got it.
Vases.
Axom's got it.
Vases.
Axom's got it.
Clocks.
They've got it. It's a great place for people with a great sense of design but don't want to pay for a designer.
Find it at Axom in the heart of the South Wedge in Rochester, New York, and online at axomhome.com. So, Marilla, in the spirit of doing 5-star reviews that maybe are for businesses that only one of us has been to, I want to tell you about a business I discovered on a recent excursion. You know how I've been trying to take excursions?
Yes.
Not to the South Wedge of Rochester, per se.
Yeah, everywhere but my second store. It's fine. I'm not taking it personally.
On a recent excursion, I stopped into a vintage shop in Bloomfield, New York.
Ooh, lovely. Lovely.
And the shop was called One Potato 2. It was on Routes 5 and 20.
Oh, love that.
On a stretch, I think it might be known locally as the Antique Mile.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
The
Intriguing.
Antique Mile?
Intriguing, isn't it?
In
Because I
upstate
know
New York?
you like some vintage and I like some vintage.
Yes.
So I was out that way and I saw this shop and I had a little time and I was with my kid. So I was like, we're pulling in here.
We're doing something spontaneous and fun.
Because your mother is so full of life and zest and, curiosity
Of
about the
course.
world. So we pulled in and she and I both had an amazing time.
Ooh.
And we both got stuff.
Ooh.
And we both were surprised by the variety of things and the prices, which seemed so reasonable.
Yay.
And the shopkeeper was very friendly
love
and
that.
helpful.
I
and
love that.
Careful.
Not too much, not too little.
Not too much, not
Ooh,
too little.
love that.
Welcoming, but not hovery.
Ooh.
Which I like in my store.
Yes.
Didn't ask me what I was up to today. Didn't make any commentary on the weather.
All right, enough.
But anyway,
feeling
I had a
personal.
really good time. I bought some jewelry. In fact, I'm wearing some right now.
I have been
Yes.
eyeballing this
Yes.
bracelet all day. This bauble, if
Okay.
you will.
I'm going to just tell you, this has a matching necklace and matching earrings. The whole thing for $5.
Stop it.
This set for $5.
Stop
And
it.
I bought some buckets for display in my shop.
Oh,
And
my
I bought 2 throw pillows that I'll show you later.
Okay.
Amazing. It was amazing.
And what
I
is
loved
this
it.
shop called
One
again?
Potato 2.
One
on
potato 2.
5 and 20 in Bloomfield, New York.
That is the cutest
if
name I've ever heard.
Anybody is around and can stop there. And because it's a vintage shop, I think it's even more likely to circulate through
Yeah.
merchandise, which is part of the
There's
fun
always
of
something
shopping
fresh.
vintage. Something
Ooh.
old but new, if you will.
I love that. I can't wait to check it
I
out.
hope you get a chance to go there.
5-star review.
5 stars.
We chat about the biz, it is the way it is. Thank you for understanding.
We sincerely thank you for understanding. Please visit us at tyfupod.com to learn more about the show, share prompt ideas, or tell us about your own small business experiences. We may include your story in a future episode. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube at TYFUpod or at tyfupod.com. Our theme music was composed by Marilla Gonzalez. The show is produced by Kelly Walker. Too bad for Kelly Walker.
Yeah.
And so it got under my skin so much.
Ooh. Is that the first thunder crack that's ever happened? Are we about to be struck by lightning, Beth, for talking about all of our customers?